There's a moment most people experience, but rarely admit. It doesn't come with dramatic music or a sudden breakdown. It shows up in quieter places, brushing your teeth, staring at the ceiling at night, scrolling through your phone without really seeing anything. It's that small, subtle feeling that something inside you needs attention. Not a crisis, not a meltdown, just a soft tug. A gentle pull from a part of yourself you haven't checked in with for a long time. You ignore it because life is loud. You distract yourself because it's easier. You move forward because you don't want to slow down. But no matter how fast you go, this quiet part of you always finds a way to whisper, "Hey, when's the last time you actually listened to me?" This video is that moment. The moment you finally slow down, breathe, and hear yourself again. Not failure, not weakness, just distance. Sometimes the hardest person to see is yourself. You spend every day inside your own mind. You know your habits, your routines, your reactions. You know how you behave in certain situations. You know what annoys you, what motivates you, what scares you. But that doesn't mean you understand the deeper layers of who you are. Most people confuse familiarity with self-awareness. But being familiar with your life isn't the same as understanding your inner world. Most of them were born from moments you didn't fully process. A disappointment, a rejection, a mistake, a moment where you felt small or embarrassed or alone. Seeing yourself clearly requires slowing down, something most of us avoid because we're afraid of what we might find. But clarity isn't scary. Clarity is freeing. Chapter 2. Hidden Patterns. Every person has patterns they repeat without realizing it. Patterns in the way you think. Patterns in the way you argue. Patterns in the way you shut down, pull back, or pretend everything's fine. These patterns didn't come out of nowhere. When life gets loud, your inner voice becomes quiet. It says, "Let's not feel that again," and quietly builds a pattern to protect you. Over time, these protective patterns become automatic. They shape your behavior so deeply that you think they're just your personality. But many of the things you call just how I am are actually what I learned to do when I didn't know another way. You can't change a pattern you can't see. And you can't see a pattern when you're always rushing. Noticing these patterns is the first step toward freeing yourself from them. Chapter 3. Internal noise. Between responsibilities, work, notifications, expectations, and the constant pressure to keep moving, your mind rarely has a moment of stillness, and without stillness, you lose the ability to hear yourself. This internal noise doesn't sound chaotic. It sounds normal. It's the endless background static of, "I need to get this done. I don't have time for that. I'm fine, really. I'm fine. I'll deal with that later." But later never comes. The noise gets louder. Your inner voice gets quieter. And eventually you forget what it even sounds like. Internal noise makes you feel disconnected from yourself without realizing why. You think you're tired, but you're actually overwhelmed. You think you're unmotivated, but you're actually overstimulated. You think you don't care anymore, but you're actually out of space to feel. Reducing internal noise isn't about silence. It's about finally hearing what's been underneath the noise all along. Chapter 4. Emotional Avoidance. Avoidance is one of the most human things we do. We avoid discomfort. We avoid uncertainty. We avoid conflict. We avoid the emotions we can't explain or don't feel ready to face. Avoidance feels safer than honesty. It feels easier than self-reflection. But here's the truth. Avoided emotions don't disappear. They wait. They wait in your body, your reactions, the tension in your shoulders, the way you snap at people you love, the way you overthink small things, the way certain topics drain your energy instantly. The most powerful emotions in your life aren't the loud ones. And the longer you postpone something, the heavier it becomes. You're not avoiding because you're weak. You're avoiding because you were never taught how to face emotions gently. You don't need force. You don't need confrontation. You just need awareness. Awareness turns avoidance into understanding. Chapter 5. Quiet emotions. Not anger, not panic, not heartbreak. It's the quiet emotions that shape your days. The disappointment you swallow because you don't want to seem dramatic. The small sadness you ignore because it's not that big of a deal. The tension you carry because you don't want to start a conflict. The loneliness you brush off because you shouldn't feel that way. The resentment you pretend doesn't exist. Quiet emotions are dangerous because you convince yourself they don't matter. But they do. Quiet emotions don't fade. They accumulate. They collect in your posture, your tone, your reactions, your decisions. They change the way you view yourself and the world without you ever noticing. You don't need a breakdown to validate what you feel. You don't need a crisis to deserve attention. Sometimes the smallest emotions say the most. You just have to listen. Chapter 6. Unspoken stories. Every person carries stories they've never said out loud. Stories about who they think they should be. Stories about who they were told to be. Stories about the mistakes that shaped them. Stories about the moments that hurt more than they admitted. Stories about dreams they quietly gave up on. These stories don't disappear. They live in your reactions. They live in your relationships. They live in your self-worth. They live in the choices you make without knowing why. When you avoid looking at these stories, they run in the background, guiding your behavior like invisible scripts. But once you bring these stories into the open, even just to yourself, you realize something powerful. You can rewrite them. You aren't trapped by your past. You're shaped by it, but you're not defined by it. Your unspoken stories deserve space, because they're often the key to understanding what you feel today. Chapter 7. The mirror problem. Seeing yourself clearly is harder than it sounds. Not because you're complicated, but because you're too close to the experience of being you. It's like trying to read a sentence with your eyes pressed against the page. You're so close you can't see anything clearly. This is why other people sometimes understand your behavior better than you do. It's not because they're smarter. It's because they're observing you from a distance. Distance creates perspective. Perspective creates clarity. You can create this same distance with yourself by pausing before you react, by noticing your thoughts without believing all of them, by asking yourself, what am I really feeling right now? These small moments pull you back far enough to see patterns you couldn't see before. You don't need perfect self-awareness. You just need space. Space to see yourself, not just live inside yourself. Chapter 8. Small signals. Your mind rarely communicates through big, dramatic signs. It communicates through small signals. Signals like, you're irritated over tiny things. You're exhausted even after resting. You lose interest in conversations halfway through. You avoid certain messages or tasks. You feel tense without knowing why. You wake up tired even when you slept enough. These signals are easy to dismiss because they don't feel urgent, but they are important. They're your mind's early warnings. The gentle reminders that something inside needs attention. Think about it. When your phone battery hits 10%, you notice. You respond. You charge it. But when you hit 10%, you push through, pretending you're fine. These small signals aren't weaknesses. They're invitations. Invitations to slow down, to breathe, to check in, to ask yourself, what's actually going on inside me? Your mind doesn't want to overwhelm you. It wants you to notice it before you reach a breaking point. Chapter 9. Gentle awareness. Most advice about self-improvement is intense. Push harder. Try more. Fix yourself. Be better. Stay disciplined. Never stop. But real self-understanding doesn't grow through force. It grows through gentleness. Gentle awareness is noticing yourself without judgment. Instead of, I shouldn't feel this way, you say, I do feel this way. Let me understand why. Instead of, I messed up again, you say, that was interesting. Why did I react like that? Instead of fighting your emotions, you get curious about them. Curiosity is healing. It opens doors that discipline alone never could. When you approach yourself gently, your mind stops resisting. It stops hiding. It stops tightening around fear or shame. Gentle awareness creates a relationship with yourself, one built on honesty, respect, and compassion. It's not about fixing who you are. It's about finally meeting who you are. Chapter 10. Emotional Momentum. Emotions don't disappear. They move. And when you don't process them, they build momentum. It starts small. A moment annoys you. You shrug it off. Another moment frustrates you. You swallow it. A conversation hurts you a little. You tell yourself it's fine. But emotions stack, layering one on top of another until they spill into something completely unrelated. That's why you snap over something small. It's not the small thing. It's everything you ignored before it. This is emotional momentum. Your mind isn't explosive. It's cumulative. You don't need to process everything perfectly. You don't need to unpack every feeling. You just need to stop pushing everything down so quickly. Acknowledge the feeling. Name it if you can. Pause before burying it. This small act slows emotional momentum and gives you control over reactions you once thought were automatic. Chapter 11. Returning to yourself. There's a version of you that feels calm, present, clear, connected. You haven't lost that version. You've just drifted away from it. Returning to yourself doesn't require dramatic changes. It requires small, honest moments. Taking a deep breath before reacting. Sitting with discomfort for 30 seconds instead of running from it. Asking yourself one simple question. What am I really feeling right now? These small acts pull you back. Not to who you used to be, but to who you've always been underneath the noise. You don't find yourself through pressure. You find yourself through presence. Chapter 12. The permission you've been waiting for. Most people wait for the right moment to start taking their inner world seriously. But here's the truth. There is no right moment. There is only the moment you decide to pay attention. You don't need a crisis. You don't need a meltdown. You don't need someone else's permission. You only need your own. Permission to slow down. Permission to feel. Permission to listen. Permission to care about the parts of yourself that feel small. The part of yourself you've been ignoring isn't asking for perfection. It's asking for awareness. Soft, gentle, honest awareness. And once you give yourself that, everything begins to change. Conclusion. Coming home to yourself. The part of yourself you've been ignoring isn't a problem to fix. It's a part of you to reconnect with. It's the part that knows when something feels off. The part that remembers what you truly want. The part that notices when you're tired. The part that loves you even when you don't love yourself. You've spent so much of your life moving forward that you forgot the importance of pausing. This moment, right now, is your pause. A gentle return. A quiet reunion. A soft reminder that you're allowed to check in with yourself. You don't need to figure everything out. You don't need all the answers. You just need to stop ignoring the part of you that's been waiting patiently for you to finally say, I hear you. This is how you come back to yourself. Not with force, not with pressure, but with attention. Honest, simple, human attention. And that is enough.